Hello everyone and welcome to the channel, and as you can see I've done it again. I've been back to Copart for another project bike. This right here is a 2010 Yamaha R6. Now down the front here we have some obvious fire damage. I think I must have been either out of my mind or very deluded, thinking it was going to be something like an oil leak from a blown seal or a gasket, or maybe something had ruptured underneath the fuel tank to spill a load of petrol on top of the hot engine to cause a fire. That is not the case. Maybe Copart, they've done me slightly dirty because of, if we look at the front of the engine, there is a gigantic hole up in there. So quite clearly this engine has exploded like a hand grenade, pissed oil everywhere and then caught fire. So of course, how much did I pay for this motorcycle? Well, it's Copart, so you're going to pay too much for them anyway. And I come along like an absolute idiot, and including my final offer, the extra taxes, and for delivery, I paid £2 for this motorcycle. Now, if I put together another £2, I could have got a fairly decent R6 for that money. So what are we going to do with this bike? That is a good question. I might leave this one up to you guys. Of course, we need to strip it apart. We're going to have to find a second engine because I don't think this one's even going to be rebuildable. We'll have to find out how much damage is done to it. But maybe we might be able to turn this into a nice track bike, as I think it's going to cost too much to get it back on the road. But we're going to find that out in this rebuild series. So let's get it in the garage and let's get this bike stripped apart. And now we've got the bike on the other Skylift, it is time to pull these fairings off and find out how much damage has happened to that engine. So let's crack on. Right, we'll cut that one off. Another one down in it. Hang on a second. Well, not much of a mechanic, but I do know that is a very important part of the engine, so that probably makes sense as to why the hole is in the engine, and that makes sense to why it caught fire. So obviously the piston rod decided to leave the chat, let oil go everywhere and burst into flames. So yeah, anyone wants a little piston trophy, hit us up. Well, that really didn't take long to solve the mystery of why there's a massive hole in the engine. I honestly wasn't expecting to see a piston rod just chilling in the lower part of that fairing. It's actually pretty amazing how it can blow through the engine block but then get caught up there. So at least I've got a nice cool souvenir now. This bike actually has a set of ABM handlebars on it, so my theory is it's just been used for wheeling and that kind of thing. And if you wheelie a motorcycle for a long period of time, you can cause an oil starvation inside the engine. That's just purely because the oil's not sat where it's supposed to be. So things like the bottom end is going to get pretty hot very fast. And then in some cases scenario, it can lead to a catastrophic engine failure just like this. So yeah, we've got to get these horrible fairings off. And as you can see, I've got to try cut them off. They're making such a mess, especially with all that sort of fire extinguisher powder as well. But we've got to get them off because we need to get this engine out of the frame. One crusty right side fairing. Lovely. If you know of any decent body shops that can sort of, you know, sand this down, fill it for me and put the new stickers on, that would be much appreciated. Jeez, look at just the mess from the fire extinguisher. I mean, of course, when your bike's on fire, you don't care, but look at what is in here. Look. And I'm breathing this in. Right, it's time to get the hoover. Look at the mess it is making. And to get the rad off, we've got all this shroud in here, so let's get this all off. On this side, we've got our expansion bottle. Let's get that out of it. Actually, it looks empty, so I don't think there's going to be too much water in the bottom of this radiator, if any at all. Lovely. Let's see if there's any water left in this bike at all. I doubt there is. Oh, actually feels quite nice. Where it's so hot in this garage, you have a nice bit of coolant all run down your arm. Oh, she's squirting. And this hose is quite literally baked on here. Nice. And the water has gone absolutely everywhere other than the little oil pan. Yeah, I'm not really too sure why I grabbed the smallest catch can in the world, but now we've made a nice mess, but we can pretty much get this rad off now already. And then to remove the rad, we've got a couple mounts at the top either side, and then one mount at the bottom there between the exhaust. Nice and crusty in there. There we go. And now we've freed the bottom of the rad up off the mount, we can undo the top post for the rad. I mean, at least we know the fire extinguisher works, but what a mess it has made. And hopefully this radiator is still good. I mean, other than it is blocked with the powder from the fire extinguisher, but we should be able to reuse that. And now we can actually get down to the engine. We can see that there's not only one hole, there is 2 holes in this. So let's get these headers off, pull the whole exhaust out, and that's going to really expose a lot of this engine. Look at them exhaust nuts, they are going to be baked on there. So let's actually try our very best to clean them up if we can. That's made 0 difference to this, but it's worth a try. I mean, I am half tempted just to cut them off. Oh, they are knackered. And that's actually just pulling the studs out of the block, but that's not too bad. One way of getting them out. As long as they don't break, I don't care. Half tempted to go get a disc cutter and just run it along the head of this and then pull the exhaust off. I mean, that nut is so corroded that it is no longer a 12mm. Nor is that one. That one is. Jeez, that's gonna snap. Yeah, no chance. So what I'm gonna do for the remaining exhaust studs, as they're so heavily corroded, I should be able to hammer an 11mm on there. Or maybe in this case, it might have to be a 10. And then hopefully just snap them off. And if we do reuse the head on this engine, which I very much doubt it, then we can just try work out what to do at a later date. Need a 10mm for this one maybe. A few days. So that goes to show you how corroded this is, that they're 12mm, and I've pretty much just hammered a 10mm socket on there to get it off. So 2 minutes later with the grinder, we've managed to just cut them off, so we've been able to drop our flanges down, so we can now remove them out of the headers. So we need to go ahead, undo the rest of the exhaust and drop it out. Now, it doesn't really matter that we've cut them and left them in there, because I reckon where the piston rods have come out and the pistons have travelled up, they've probably done quite a bit of damage to the head. So it's not really going to make too much of a difference. I don't think we're going to be able to rebuild it. So to get this exhaust off, we should only have, hopefully, a couple of brackets left. So let's undo the main one underneath here. Can't really get the gun in there to send it. Oh. Thank God for that. I was expecting that to snap where it's absolutely been burnt alive. There we go. There's our exhaust muffler off, which actually might not be too bad. Might be able to reuse that. So that is now only just stuck on the manifold. There we go. Yeah, all right, so that's now freed her up. We have one exhaust sensor over the back here. Let's get a spanner in and get that undone. A little bit of that, so hopefully the sensor doesn't decide to snap in there. Oh my God, that is tight. Oh, there you go, that's the exhaust now out. Jesus, that is beyond tight. I'm not spending any longer messing around with that sensor. I should have undone it before lowering the exhaust, but it's too late. It's super tight. I'm only going to end up breaking it. So we have to remove the tank anyway, so we can get to all of our wiring on top of the engine, so we can remove the harness, and then we can lower the engine at the bottom of the frame. So whilst we're there, I'm going to hope that there's a plug for that sensor. If not, I'm just going to cut it in the loom somewhere where I'll just be able to easily solder it all back up at a later date. So yeah, let's get all this tank and stuff off now. And by the way, the battery on this is completely dead, so there's no point me trying to power up to show you the mileage or anything like that, as, to be honest with you, I'm not really concerned with what mileage this is on. Right now, we've got a lot bigger problems than that. So when the bike actually got delivered to me, I did turn the key, and to my surprise, ignition come on straight away, the fuel pump primed up, and all the electronics seemed to work. So at that point, I was pretty hopeful that the loom hadn't been badly burnt or damaged. Now the mileage, I cannot think off the top of my head what it was. I want to say it was between 18 to 23,000, but that could be a complete and utter guess. So we'll have to find out once we have this bike rebuilt. Everything's falling out. Right. If we unplug that, we're going to have petrol piss everywhere. There's only one way to find out. And I always like to find out the hard way as well. Something exciting about it. So I'm just currently undoing all the plugs for the fuel pump. And I've got a main petrol line there that I'm just going to hopefully undo and hope that petrol shouldn't piss out of it. There's a little bit in that line, but that will be fine. And that is one tank out. Bloody hell, that's well heavy. There's loads of fuel left in it. Woohoo! That'll be used for the lawnmower, maybe. Sure, look at all the powder from that fire extinguisher. That made such a mess. The air filter is going to be quite interesting to see. So yeah, let's get this airbox out of the way. I mean, geez, it needs a jet wash. Oh my God, that is so bloody messy in there. That actually is super clean in there, way cleaner than I expected. It's not pretty clean, the backside is, but good thing is it's an original air filter, so hopefully this bike was pretty stock and it hasn't been tuned, but you just never know. So yeah, we're just undoing the bolts now for the trumpets to hopefully release the airbox, because it's normally that is holding it in. It might be them ones there as well, but it'll all have to come out anyway. So I did actually reach out to Yamaha and ask if they could send me a workshop manual for this bike, as I can't really find one online for a 2010. I know a lot of them are pretty much similar with different engines and that, but I'd like to have one for the exact year of this bike. And to be honest with you, they weren't very helpful. They kind of palmed me off and told me that they didn't have one. So yeah, that's a bit of a letdown. So maybe if there's someone from Yamaha watching this, hit us up and help us out, will you please? Right, we should be able to pull our airbox out now. Yeah, perfect. So a couple of bits to undo there. So that's the bottom part of our airbox off as well. So we've just removed the airbox and look at the state of this bike. It looks like it was doing a special run in Colombia for a couple of weeks. But yeah, so I followed the wire up from that exhaust sensor and it goes to this plug here. So let's get that undone next. There we go. So we can now go down and pull that exhaust off the bottom of the bike. Right, that exhaust can now come out. Oh, thank God for that. So I managed to get a 4mm Allen key in there and undo all of the sort of little clamps at the bottom of the throttle body. So that's hopefully going to let us take this out now. Bar a couple of plugs still, that's fine. Right, we're finally getting somewhere. So I've now removed the 2 throttle cables and all I've got is a couple of plugs which I can easily get to now. Famous last words, no doubt. There we go. That one's a nice standard easy one. And then the last one. There we go. And that is our throttle body now out. And now we should be able to remove this horrible matting, hopefully. Which, to be fair, might have actually done its job and stopped the fire from spreading. Maybe that's the reason why Yamaha put this on here. Jesus. God knows where that goes. If anyone knows in the comments, let us know. So now I'm just following the wiring harness and disconnecting any plugs that are still connected to the engine or that is going to be in my way when we drop the engine out the bottom of the frame. Obviously, as we lower it, we don't want any of the plugs or harness to get caught up and snag and break. So I'm just spending 10 minutes checking everything over and also checking the plugs. Like I say, there's no fire damage up here, which is good. It's just that fire extinguisher powder. So yeah, just sort of going over everything, cleaning it, disconnecting it and getting it out of my way. So finally, we are moments away from dropping the engine out the bottom of the R6, and I'm starting to get a little bit nervous. Let me show you why. So as you can see on the other skylift, we've got the legs that come out, look, and it goes directly underneath the engine. So my plan was, I've got a motorcycle lift over there. I was going to put it underneath, sort of just somehow manage to lower the engine down onto that, and then sort of pull the bike away from it, leaving the engine. But I don't know how easy that's going to be. So we're going to have to do a proper cowboy job of this. I've got no friends to ask to give us a lift. And I can't really ask the girlfriend because she'll just ask 1,000,001 questions. What do you mean taking the engine out? Why do you need to buy a new one? More money? So yeah, I'd rather just the hassle of it falling on my leg. I've moved the 600 out of the way, so we're not going to damage that or get pinned up against it. So I think what we need to do is just send it. Let's have a bit of fun. So first thing we need to do. So literally the only things I've got to remove now is this horrible rusty ass chain. So we need to just cut that off. And then I'm going to remove the side stand and the shifter. That's just going to make life hopefully easier as we undo the mounts here and start undoing them ones. There's a bracket down here. So I'm hoping we can kind of just tilt the engine down without the whole bike just doing a front flip on the stand. So I'm going to quit the waffling and we're just going to send it and let's see what happens. Oh, there's neutral. There we go. So at least the gearbox works anyway. Oh, mate, look at the state of that chain. You will never see a chain in a worse condition than that. Please don't round off, baby. Yes. Oh, yeah. Crusty everything is. There we go. Nice. And also, where I was just undoing the rest of that loom, look at all the crud that has fell off this. And for example, something like this, a spring. Now, I don't know if that's off a clutch cable or what, but when it comes to putting this bike back, if I don't get a decent manual, where does something like a little spring go? All fun and games, I suppose. We're going to put that up there. So if anyone knows what that spring's for, let us know in the comments, because someone's got to know where that's from. Because me, personally, I haven't a clue. It could be from anywhere. One mount out. Oh, try not to lose all the bits. Right, now we're starting to get to the sketchier end of things. So, a nice long screwdriver do the trick, just to help push that bolt through. Please do not hit off the mount here. Oh, that is a miracle. So that's one more mount out. Now, how many more have we got left? I think it is just, whoa, here we go. Let's slowly bring this down. Oh my God. This is where I get a trap finger. Let's hold it there and make sure all the wiring's coming out with it. Yeah, let's tuck a plug in there. Very good. Now, the question is, we're on the motorcycle lift. Oh my God. The problem is that is gonna wanna fall off, but if we undo the mount, hopefully I'll be able to hold the engine and then lower it down. I should have brought a piece of wood with me to wedge in there, but we've come this far, we can't back out now. And now I'm just spending a few minutes adjusting the engine and the frame, just trying to take as much weight off that mount as I possibly can, so it's going to make it so much easier just to slide the last bolt out. Let me move you over so you can have a direct view of this going completely wrong. Oh, I'm here now anyway. If it falls, it falls. The guy shouldn't have blew the engine up before me. This goes. Right. The engine is now free. Right, I think the motorcycle lifts work. Let's come down. Oh, look at this. Don't know what I was worried about. I knew exactly what I'm doing.
A few moments later.
I mean, the engine does want to fall, but there we go. Why didn't I drain the coolant and oil out of this bike? Right, there we go. Jesus. That is sure one way to make a mess. But, I tell you what, the most important thing is, other than a bit of grease and dirt there, yes, the frame is not knackered at all. That will all clean up. So that is a really good start. So I can be quite happy with that. As you can see, it's more just dirty from the powder from the fire extinguisher than it actually being damaged. But I mean, the engine, of course, where the oil just burst all over it, took most of the abuse really. But look at this. Obviously, you'd have a plastic sort of chain guide sprocket thing goes around there, knackered. Oh, right. Let me put the camera back over here. Let me pull this now out of the way. Oh yeah. And I think it's time for me to tidy up this oil. I've just tidied all that mess up, pushed the frame over to one side, and I've dragged that heavy engine over to my worktop. Now, the engine actually looks wider than the worktop, but we need to get it up there. So yeah, let's have a crack at this then. Right, here we go for the strongman competition. Can I get this engine up on here without it folding my back and me in half? Famous last words. Let's give it a crack. How heavy can an engine be? Very. With the knees, not the back. Let's go. Ah, it's f***ing light work, mate. So I managed to get the engine up on the bench without breaking my back. Well, I'll probably find out how much damage I did to that in the morning. But for now, I hate to be that person, but the video is long enough. So you guys are going to have to come back for part 2, where we strip the engine apart and find out exactly what damage has been done to it. But I promise you, I'm not going to make you wait long for that. It will be out next Thursday, 6 PM. Promise you. So if you've enjoyed the video, go down and give it a big thumbs up for me, please. And also, let me know in the comments what you think we should do with this bike. Should we turn it into a track bike, or should we save it and get the R6 back on the road? Now, they've been discontinued, so you can only buy the R6 as a track bike. And also, we're already £2 in, so I think we could probably get a track bike for around about that and not have to convert it and spend all that money. So I'd like to try save it and get it back on the road. But guys, let me know what you think about it. And yeah, we'll catch you next week, 6 o'clock, I promise you. Thanks for watching.